Well, this is going to be probably my last video for a little while I kind of rest up a bit and try to reorient my life and get certain things in gear. The general trend of this channel has been towards heavy-duty philosophy, including explorations of morality and political philosophy. And so I hope that I haven't completely abandoned math and science. Don't worry, a lot of you will still have videos to criticize. Trust me, you will. But you can criticize some of my latest batch of videos also. In particular, I want to make a video in the vein of a lot of those videos, or actually more likely books, that are written on popular movies and philosophy, or popular books and philosophy. We have Star Trek and philosophy. We have, I can't think of all the titles now, but you know what I'm talking about. You see them in the philosophy section in bookstores all the time. And I want to talk about Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and philosophy. And the question of, is innocence really possible? It's a devastating topic if you really think about it. We have in the movie an idealistic, maybe a little bit of a simple-minded character who comes to Congress believing in the official narrative of American history, that we're of the people, by the people, and for the people, and that anybody can get to be president. What he sees is a Congress controlled by the 1%. What he sees is a Congress controlled by the plutocracy. And what he also sees is a Congress where even his own, a friend of his father, a reformer, somebody who was a populist or a progressive, was willing to turn on him for the sake of power and aggrandizement. In particular, what Jefferson Smith finds. Now remember, Jefferson Smith didn't come to power through the normal bought-out process. He came to power through some kind of a hitch that occurred in the electoral process. I think he was appointed, and his fellow senator was going to kind of have him under his wing, so to speak. But in actual reality, it was to make sure that Jefferson Smith was indoctrinated into what the real role of a politician is, and that is to serve what we could call the 1%, or the corporate elites and the political bosses that control the United States. Fascinating movie. But what he discovered also is something even more insidious, and that is the truth itself. The truth that the media portrays, the truth that becomes the official narrative of the culture, itself serves the interests of this 1%. That they can make you into a criminal if you're not. They can destroy your good name. All the children who loved him as a camp counselor, as somebody who was kind of Rousseau's natural man, suddenly hated him because he got letters of love and support, and then he got letters of hatred and condemnation because of the disparagement of his bad name, or of his good name, turned into a bad name. The interesting thing is that a lot of this had to do with he wanted to set aside land for natural preservation. He wanted to stop some kind of I think he didn't know about a dam project or something that was going to be in the interest of developers, and he was going to try to preserve a pristine ecosystem from destruction. And in the kind of innocence of his heart and a naivete, he assumed that this would be applauded. It was applauded when Teddy Roosevelt did it. It's applauded when national parks were set aside, and he wanted to do much of the same thing. He wanted to help save the earth from overly rapacious development, and he believed in development, but he didn't want to see all of our trees chopped down, and he didn't want to see our air polluted. And yet, sure enough, the truth machine, the corporate truth machine, turned on him. Much as it's turned on environmentalists today and called them terrorists, called them all sorts of things, people who can't defend themselves. But that's neither here nor there. Getting back to the movie, to me it's a fascinating exploration in the question of, is innocence possible? Can you actually have a country that is run based on conscience? I would like to think that the answer is yes. And the movie ends on something of an ambiguous note, but it seems like the movie is affirming the idea that innocence is possible. That you have somebody who, again, Jefferson Smith, Thomas Jefferson symbolizes the common man. Smith is a common man's last name, right? So he is the common man who may be a little less savvy than your average common man. Somebody who's a little bit of a somebody who's so into innocence that even the ordinary common man would, in a sense, be jaded. But he's definitely innocent in comparison to this jaded Washington D.C., where they've seen it all before, and they've seen greater men than Jefferson Smith get crushed under the weight of just not being able to stand against the corruption. The movie ends on something of an ambiguous note, but I think that the movie at least tries to affirm the idea that innocence is possible. The whole experiment in popular democracy is based on the idea that innocence is possible. Was the skeptics, or those who doubted the idea of Republican self-government, who tended to think that innocence was not possible. They often derived a very cynical view of human nature. I would say that the conclusion is that there is no definite conclusion. Perhaps human nature is as we do. Perhaps if we reform ourselves and become a more ethical species, then some alien race out there observing us will say, well, human nature is good. But if we fail to do that and destroy ourselves, God forbid, they might say that human nature was bad. Perhaps the choice in the meaning of the question, is innocence as possible, is up to us. So on that cheery note, may we make the right choice. Thank you.